Hello everybody, so slightly different video to normal. In this one it's a bit of a presentation on the history of the project really. I was thinking that I'd add some pictures to some of the videos that I've already recorded, but I thought, well, why not, let's go through the whole thing and also give some thanks to people that have helped me at various stages in the project. And yeah, so let's start right at the start then, I suppose. So when I was a kid, I was given a book, this very book, by a family friend, and I think it got me into certainly more into Italian cars. I've always been interested in, well, there's always been an interest in cars and motorcycles in my family, and I think I'm the first one to go down the sort of Italian car route, and I think this book has a lot to do with it. There's certain other things. Became a bit of a Ferrari fan when I was a kid. I think the romance, I suppose, and the the passion that you see with the red racing car, is a little bit different, And in the 80s, when they were struggling a bit with Michele Alboreto, Stefan Johansson, and Gerhard Berger, and that sort of era, I was just the red cars were for me, and I think it influenced my choices in my automotive life going forwards, and yeah, I think that's part of how we ended up here, really. So yeah, so on that note, here is 13-year-old, I suppose, me, posing with my anorak. That we all had these in the 90s, didn't we, I suppose? And this is actually at the Museum of British Road Transport in Coventry, and they had a special exhibition featuring some legendary Ferraris, and it just so happens that I managed to have my picture taken in front of a 512. This particular car is owned by Nick Mason, Pink Floyd's drummer, and I think it left a bit of an impression on me. Certainly a huge. Well, they look big, they're not actually that big in real life, but yeah. So this is one at the start, I suppose. So yeah, I'm pretty happy having my picture taken again next to this car. So little did I know that I'd be embarking on a career in engineering, designing, and would end up having a go at making one myself. So this was the starting point for making stuff. I thought I'd try and make some radio controlled car bodies. So this is a very poor picture of a CAD model that I made. I thought I'd start off with the 512, my favourite racing car. This is a long tail 512 from Le Mans 1970. And I thought I did a pretty good job of the CAD of this, just basing it off photos. There were no real official drawings of these cars, so you're best going off photographs, and this had to be adapted to be a vac form body, and so there's a few bits that are missing, or sort of abbreviated, like the radiator ducts and things like that, and it had to fit an existing RC car chassis, so its dimensions are sort of a bit tweaked, but it looks pretty good, I think. I made a mold tool out of TB650, which is what we use in F1 for making patterns for composite parts. They were professionally made. I've still got these molds. And yeah, it was fun to make a terrible picture of a number one finished car. I made 25 of them. There were 3D printed parts that go with them. I sold most of them. It was a nice exercise to do it, but there's no money in this. It was just done as a hobby, really, and it's hard to make money doing this sort of thing because, you need to make thousands and thousands, I think, to make any money. I mean, it was a bit of an interesting thing to do, something I did as just to make something. So I thought, well, how hard can it be to go from 1/10 scale to 1:1 scale? And so I did some research. So over a few years, I've been researching 512s and saving pictures and sort of technical information. And on Facebook, I found a master modeler, an Italian chap, who has made many 512 models himself. He's a very skilled guy. And he posted this picture. Now I looked at it and I thought, well, that's a 512, isn't it? And this picture, so he photographed this on the wall of the Ferrari Museum in Maranello. Now this picture has been cleaned up by AI as best as possible. I mean, it's as legible as probably you can make out in the video, i.e. you can interrogate the frame basically from this drawing, but you can't read the dimensions. And it's quite interesting to see how they did it. I've never seen this drawing anywhere else, so it's pretty lucky to have happened across it. I actually asked the guy if he had a better copy, and he said he didn't, because he didn't really realise the significance of it until he sort of got into modelling, I suppose, or something like that. Anyway, he basically didn't have a better copy. And so this is quite a good starting point. What's interesting about this is that it's not actually what you end up with. You would think, well, this is exactly what Ferrari made. Well, it is mostly, but there are certain parts of this that do not tie up with any of the 512s that I've ever seen, and even the prototypes or the very first cars. So this is a 512S chassis, so it differs a little bit from 512M, which is what I'm making, or a replica of what I'm making. And some things are not what they ended up with, so there are certain differences that I've never seen on a car. So you have to remember that it's still handmade. You know, they would have taken this drawing to the people that made the chassis, and you know, they didn't make these there's no sort of computer aided manufacturing or anything like that. So nowadays the drawing would be the part, you know, you would end up with. So in those days, I guess certain things were changed. They might have changed it after they'd released this drawing and just said, can you change this detail? So it's mega useful. It's a little bit difficult to understand the drawing because you can't see the dimensions, and it's quite a grainy drawing. But so this was quite a good start point to start doing some CAD. And it also, I looked at it and, well, you know, I think it shouldn't be too difficult. You know, famous last words. It's far simpler than a Porsche 917 frame, and this is sort of fairly. I think it's not particularly advanced sort of space frame design. You know, it's quite an interesting thing to work back through the archives, and when so basically, long story short, I started to work on this thing, and you start to go back through. Feels like you're sort of understanding the decisions that were made at the time, you know, and when some of the dimensions that come out are fairly round, which is always a confidence booster. And you think, well, this is obviously the same path that, you know, Mauro Fogheri and his guys went down in the 60s, you know. So to that end, I started doing a mock-up, a basic CAD model. This is what I did during the COVID lockdown. Basically had nothing else to do, so just thought, let's try and do this, you know. So I got a bit of motivation to do it, and I really enjoyed doing it. I kind of enjoyed the process, and it was fun to see this thing coming together in CAD. And although this is a very crude model, I like to think it's come on quite a long way from this. It was a good starting point, and it gave me a bit of confidence that I could do something like this. And so the next thing that happened, which I've already discussed, was this became for sale on Race Cars Direct. I've mentioned Mario before in another video, so huge thanks to Mario for allowing me to come and visit him. Extremely jealous of his garage here. This image is in my head a lot when I think about this project, because I think how cool this looked when I saw it. I was like, wow, that's something you should try and do, you know, you could try and do that. So I've spoken about Mario and about what this is before in another video, but here's a picture, the proof of it. It really happened. And you can see in this picture to the left, the V12 engine that Mario intended to put in this car. It's a beast of an engine, and I'll show you some pictures of it later on in a frame, and you can make your own mind up. I mean, I totally get why you would use this engine. And you can, you know, I've made the frame so that you could definitely use it. But yeah, interesting to show this. I think, you know, it shows, interestingly as well, this what you're seeing here is the center section of the car in fiberglass, which is not as per the original. So the center section is sheet metal on the real car. So these molds were made from a car, presumably actually in America, and were offered as a kit car. So the whole body is very heavy, and it's a very thick laminate. We'll talk a little bit more about making these parts in the next photo I think you'll see. So you can see also the frame here that Mario is using is from an Ultima kit car, which it makes sense. It's very close to the original dimensions of a 512. However, it wouldn't let you use original wheels. It's too wide. So for me, that's a bit of a sticking point, and I was never really going to do anything other than design a frame. For me, that's part of it anyway. But it's a cool project. It's still out there, and somebody hopefully is going to do something with it. But yeah, mega of Mario to let me spend time looking around it. It was really inspirational. And yeah, I wish I had a garage this big. Maybe, yeah, one can dream. So anyway, I did more research, and I was very lucky to happen across some people that had some parts that they didn't want anymore. A race team that was involved in these cars a long time ago. So if I went in a van, not this van, to collect this rear clam, and only to find that it did not fit in a normal van. I underestimated the size of these things big time. So thanks a lot to Mark Foster, who's been an inspiration to me on this project. He's always been nagging me to make videos. So here we are. Mark came along with me on the first trip, and he could sense my excitement, but I think he told me, you're never going to get it in this van. And I was like, yeah, no problem. And sure enough, I had to go back, and this rather crude vehicle was absolutely ideal for loading the rear clam. So this was a mega day for me, and you can see it was a bit of a state. It was in a storage barn for many years. So this is a bit of a dream barn find part for me. Never thought I'd own something like this. And yeah, very lucky, and thanks to the people that sold it to me. This, was a massive shot in the arm for the project. I mean, I initially thought that I would do all this in CAD, but having the real parts, or parts that were made from moulds taken from a real car, is unbeatable. I mean, it really is, hugely significant, and I realised that it was really what you needed to do. And I thought, when I got them, I thought, well, this is correct, and it's no doubt that you're going to end up with a really good car, when you use the correct parts. So getting this was just a huge result. And there it is in the kitchen. I was sort of figuring out how I would maybe try and scan it with my iPhone. I'll show you how that went in a minute. So in real life, that's was my old garage, and I've cleaned it up a little bit. I've done some more work to it since then, and yeah, that was cool to have that. So in terms of its construction, it's a glass fibre part. This has been made with core, so you can see the lighter areas where the core has been used to bulk up the laminate without adding masses of weight. So the core laminate is fairly thin. This part has got pretty good structural integrity because of the shape of it, and you can see it's quite flexible in certain areas. But the sort of spars that have been created using core, now this is the way to do it. You can also see there's a load of filler in this part that had to be cleaned off, and it was never really finished. I think when they took it off the mould, it was quite damaged, so they basically put it into store for use as a spare. And so that's how I ended up with it. So I've cleaned it up a bit since then, but it gives you a good idea of how these parts are made. Normally these would be painted black, so you won't be able to see anything on the inside, but it's nicely made, and I think it'll be a good usable part. And so the next stroke of incredible luck was that I managed to acquire a set of well-used but authentic wheels. Now these are made out of magnesium, so they can't really be used in a mobile car really, but they're perfect for display use and mocking up. So these are, for me, the greatest racing car wheels ever made, and an absolutely iconic design. The depth of the rear wheels is staggering. They are immense. And what I initially thought, well, you could maybe restore them. But once I thought about it, I cleaned them up a bit from when this photo was taken. And there are so many original things about these wheels, I thought it would be wrong to remove that history. So I don't plan on restoring them. I think they are just too authentic, how they are. There's quite a lot of history here. The gold paint that's visible on the front wheel at the top, that is most likely its original paint when it was supplied in 1970 to the team that used these cars. These came from the Spanish car, the yellow car, so they painted them silver so it wouldn't clash with the yellow bodywork, presumably. That's incredible history to me. These are, incredibly lucky to get them. You can buy modern, they are available. They're not cheap, but you can buy authentic wheels. The racers that use the cars now, obviously they warranted another run of casting, so these are fantastic for me. They won't be able to be used. I could NDT and inspect them, but I think they were sold to me on the basis that they wouldn't be used in anger, so I totally understand that. So amazing history there again. And also, so if you don't know what these are upright. So these are the bits that hold the axles to the car. The bottom ones, the larger ones are the rear, and the tiny little ones at the top are the front upright. So these are key parts to the 512. Incredibly lucky again. These are remade parts that were made from original casting patterns. So they're hollow inside, they're quite light. These are aluminium. They would have been magnesium originally, but aluminium is fine. So these will be machined up to drawings that I'll do, and then they will be used on the first car. If I was going to make another car, I'd probably billet machine copies, because I don't think it'd be possible to get new ones made. I don't know. It'd be quite expensive to have patterns made. Not impossible, it's just a matter of money. But anyway, I can show these parts in detail, but this is part of the history of the project, and another very, very fortunate find. So talking about uprights, it's probably a bit hard to see on the video, but this is a section drawing, an original Ferrari drawing of a Ferrari Grand Prix car, I think from 1966. So this drawing is in a book on Mauro Forghieri, the chief designer of Ferrari, and it shows in quite good detail the design of the front hub for the Grand Prix car, which happens to be pretty much identical to the 512. Now I know that because I've sort of seen a lot of detailed pictures, and I can't really go into detail, but trust me, this is exactly like the 512. Interestingly, the main difference here is that in this time Grand Prix cars didn't do pit stops. Well, they did. They generally were out of the race, but you didn't change tyres in a pit stop. So the bolts that hold the wheels on are not designed to come undone quickly. So there would be 5 bolts that you can see in the middle of the picture. Whereas an endurance racer like the 512 would have been expected to do tyre changes in pit stops. So it has one huge nut in the middle, which is the main difference here. But fascinating, shows all the part numbers and all the details of the suspension layout, and this is it just goes, it's common sense that Ferrari would have used the same parts. There would really not be much of a reason to deviate from this design, from the F1 car to the endurance racer. So it's quite cool to find this. It's a book that anyone can buy. It's fascinating, actually, if you're interested in this sort of thing. So again, this was a cool piece of information to find. It's pretty much exactly the same. They used these are not quite the same brakes, but they all used British Girling brake calipers, and they're all listed on this drawing, which is incredible. So another cool thing. And another cool thing, a bit more research, a bit more asking around, and thanks so much to Len, if he's watching this, for helping me with this. So this is a mould. So this is what we would call a splash mould that was made for a 512 by an owner before he did anything too exciting with it, i.e. racing it or setting land speed record attempts with it. And this has been in Len's store for many years, and he was very kind to make me a front clam off this mould, which I've shown you before. You've seen it in the garage. So yeah, it was extremely exciting to see this, and you can just about make out on this something I talked about in an earlier video. You can see an E and an S just in the light that's coming off. So when this was made, for some, I think they probably didn't take the stickers off, which seems a bit slack, but I guess they just wanted a copy. I mean, this part is a bit rough, but it contains lots of DNA, which I find fascinating, and that I love that sort of thing. For me, it just adds and adds. It's not something that I would want to remove almost. But so the E and the S actually date this, like I've said before. So these characters here. So the guy in front is the owner of this 512. That is Robert Horn. So you can see on his sleeve it says Horns. He owned a clothing shop in the centre of London in the 70s and 80s, and he obviously did pretty well and bought this Ferrari. And the guy behind him is Derek Bell. So obviously we know who Derek Bell is now, but so this photo is from 1977, I believe, when Robert Horn decided that he would like to try and use this 512 to set a land speed record in the UK. So at that time, this car became the fastest car recorded in the UK. It went into the Guinness Book of Records. It certainly isn't now, but they took it to a few events. It's actually at RAF Fairford here, and they ran it down the runway and recorded something like 179 miles an hour, and it went into the Guinness Book of Records, so which is pretty cool. Why not? And I reckon before they did this, they made that mould in case something went wrong, and they pranged this Ferrari. And all the evidence here, so here's another picture of it in action. So even the shell sticker on the side and the word Horns on the bonnet is visible in that part. So it kind of dates it for me, because this car would have changed its appearance fairly soon after this. It would have been returned to its more authentic livery. So again, cool piece of history. It sort of it sort of shows the DNA of the parts and a little bit of history associated with them, which is great. Another piece of extreme fortune here. Pilkington Glass. If you want to buy a 512 windscreen, you can. Pilkington make them. This was made to order. It took a long time to get it, but it's a glass windscreen. I was pretty amazed that they actually list it on their historic website. It looks pretty accurate to me. It's quite a hard thing to measure, and I haven't smashed it up, touch wood, and it's been in storage for a while now, so it's a cool piece. So next stage, every kitchen should have a Group 5 sports car in it. I made a very crude mock-up just to get a bit of a nice feeling about the dimensions of the car that I was using in my CAD model. And it fitted pretty well in my kitchen, to be honest. I was pretty sad to move out of this house, because you can't really build a car in the kitchen, but you can sort of have it lay out like this. It was quite a nice feature for quite a long time in my kitchen. And so yeah, I mean, how lucky am I to have got to this point, really? And it just shows all the good fortune and help that I had to get there. Not lost on me, to be honest. So I did some basic scans of those panels using my iPhone and stuck them in CAD. We'll look at more scans in a bit. So the CAD model is coming on here, but so scanning. So here's my friend Sam, a guy I work with at Red Bull Advanced Technologies, set up his own company doing scanning work, and this is a very early project that he kindly helped with. Is basically just, I think you won't mind me saying, he was sort of learning the trade at this point. So we set this up in the kitchen. Now, scanning is a minefield, really. It's quite fascinating. One thing with these panels, I tried to make this so that it was sort of set as though it would be fitted to the car. I think my efforts were not enough. It needed a bit more than this, because whilst dimensionally it's pretty good, working off scans is very difficult. It's hard to explain it. You get a lot of data, and it's extremely useful, but to sort of the engineering side of it can you got to be careful, basically, that you would need to spend a lot of money to get really high-end results, that you can use. So this is a good starting point, and Sam did a cracking job. You could spend a lot of money on this, and Sam, the results were pretty good, to be honest. So he was also called Donut Motorsport. I don't know who he still is. I don't know if he's still doing this, to be honest. But so this was a good, certainly better than an iPhone. But yeah, it's difficult with scanning. You know, people that have tried it, it's big panels like this. It's not easy. Shiny panels. You know, we use various things, marker dots, and I think dry shampoo, which made my kitchen smell really quite nice for quite a long time. And these were results. So you know, they are useful, and they were used to sort of verify dimensions and things. But you know, scanning is a huge subject. So this is the basis of the jig design that I copied. So these guys in America were making, this is a company called Foreman, and they made some excellent Ferrari P4 recreations, and this was the jig. I don't think this company's going anymore. We respect to them, and thank you for sharing all this information, because I copied this for my jig, basically the same principle. For me, it makes sense. It's quite simple. It's not over-engineered, and it's pretty easy to do this with laser cutting sheet metal parts. You can see how they've clamped the first tubes into the jig, and away they go, making their chassis. So thanks to them. And here is a picture of a V12 engine in the Foreman P4 frame, just to show the size of it. You know, this is the road car engine, which I think is a cool engine. It's a big engine. So this would fit in my car. I'm not sure I would want to do this, but it shows what it would look like, and you know, it's sort of for information really. So this is where I'm at. I am pretty much happy with the design now, and the drawings are sort of 95% complete. Just sort of tolerancing things, and a few more sort of dimensions and detail added to drawings. So it is absolutely my aim to have these tubes made and get them fitted to the jig, and then start to get the fabrication underway imminently. So hopefully going to be able to update more. Real life is beckoning, and I'm going to have to get a proper job fairly soon. So I'm not sure how much I'll be able to do, but really now I think it's almost in the hands of somebody else, because this frame will need to be made professionally, not by me. The design work is basically done now, so yeah, so let's see. Trip to the bank manager once I've got the quotes, and hopefully we get this thing going, because as you can see, this has been taking place over quite a few years now, and yeah, it's time to cut some more steel and start making something. Thanks for watching, and yeah, nice one. See you in a bit.